Hey, what's going on, friends? Pete here with mixbetternow.com and learningtomix.com, and I'm super stoked because today we're going to be taking a look at my favorite new compressor plugin, which is the Empirical Labs Arousor. Now, when I say new, I do not mean new as in just released. I mean new to myself. I recently checked this bad boy out not too long ago, and it has quickly made its way into all of my mixes, okay? Now, most of you know that I do not do reviews of any gear that I do not love and that I do not use. So, as I said, I am using this all over the place. It is an extremely diverse sounding compressor. It sounds amazing on everything from drums all the way to your mix bus with this lovely 1.5 and 2-to-1 ratios that they've added to the plugin. Like I said, Empirical Labs has added a bunch of cool little extra goodies to the Arousor that is not necessarily found on the Distressor, but nonetheless, most of those very cool things on the Distressor are here. So we'll put it through its paces, we'll check it out, we'll see what it sounds like, and of course, we'll have some fun. All right, so to start out with, of course, we're here inside of Pro Tools. This instance of the Arousor that I have up on the screen is on my drum bus, which is right here. And I am just doing a pretty generic compression setting that I would have on my drums. 4-to-1 ratio right here, almost a 10 millisecond attack, 150 millisecond release, and you know, we're just doing a couple dB of compression. So what we'll do is we'll take a listen. We'll go from verse 2 here. This is So Far from Matt McCalkin, and it sounds like this.
Your green eyes, soft smile. I could stay here so long. Wake up, hear your voice on the phone. It makes me happy. Well, I'm tired of being alone. Tonight, the past and the future might collide. I just wanna be with you.
All right, so as you can see from the gain reduction meter, which is right up top here, we're doing anywhere from about 1 to 5 dB of compression on the drums. Like I said, 4-to-1 ratio, and we had this this warm level, if you will, on the soft clipping meter down here, just sort of lighting up, which is basically 0.5% of the total harmonic distortion. I'll talk about what this means in a second, but first let's just sort of go over some of the features that the Arousor has, because it's not an exact replica of the Distressor, but it definitely is, you know, modeled after the circuit of the hardware unit, and it definitely has that Distressor sound. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, I guess we'll just kind of go top to bottom, is that we have our gain reduction meter up here, okay? So, you know, it lights up. Let me just solo the drums real quick. It's going to do a very similar type of reaction to the hardware Distressor. So it's got that very accurate, very sort of lightning quick gain reduction meter up there, which is super cool. Going across the top here, you're going to see some very usual suspects that you would see on just about any compressor. We've got attack and release. We also have our ratios, and then we have an input and an output. So the way that this sort of reacts is it has a fixed threshold, and it's very similar to an 1176. So if you've never used a Distressor before, you would get your dial in your compression the same way as an 1176, where the harder you push the input, the more gain reduction you're going to see occur. We also have an output knob over here, so you can get your level match on. Now, if we look down here at the ratios, what's really cool is they've added a couple extra ratios to what we have available to us. So normally on a Distressor, you're going to see 1-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, etc. And they've added the 1.5 to 1 and the 2 to 1, which is really cool, because that means we can get a nice gentle amount of compression in our ratio, so we can use it on something like the mix bus. Of course, going upwards here, we can, get into limiting with a 20 to 1, and then what this rivet is all the way up here is essentially what the nuke feature is on the Distressor, so it's very extreme brick wall limiting. All right, so looking down here at this attack modification knob, this is really cool. What it does is it slows up the initial slope of the attack of the initial transient. So it works in conjunction with the attack knob. And it's very cool because it can add a sort of non-linear characteristic to the way that the compressor sort of reacts to very transient heavy material. We can get a whole lot more sort of smack and attack out of it, but at the same time, it can react in a non-linear fashion where it's much more akin to sort of an analog piece of gear, sort of how an analog compressor would react. We'll play with that knob and we'll listen to it shortly here. We also have a high pass filter here, which is great. So if we want to let a whole bunch of low end information through and remain uncompressed, you know, things like our kick drums, bass guitar, subsynths, you know, whatever we want. The other thing that's cool is we have a blend knob over here. Okay. A mix knob, a dry wet knob, whatever you want to call it. If you click on this little E button over here to expand this, what's cool is we can also it has a dry trim. So I'll show you what that sounds like too. And then in the middle here, we've got a detector sidechain EQ, which is a parametric EQ. Now, what's great about this is it can really focus in on specific frequencies and compress them quite a bit heavily. So for example, where would you want to use this? Why would you want to use this? Well, we could use it to maybe de-ess something where there's a sibilant frequency. We could sort of go in here and dial in, you know, something around maybe 5K, where 4.5K sometimes where there's some sibilance. If you've got some splashy cymbals or, you know, maybe some very present guitars between 3 and 5K that are just sounding a bit bright, we can go in here and it just essentially tells the compressor to look at this frequency and to basically compress it, you know, a little bit harder, especially using it in conjunction with this boost cut and with the bandwidth knob that we have here. All right, and last but not least, we have a soft clip knob over here. Now, this is kind of like a little bit of an upgrade, in my opinion, on the Dist 2 and the Dist 3, which stands for distortion 2 and 3, even in odd order harmonic buttons on the Distressor. So what's cool about this is we can basically use this to soft clip in conjunction with the compressor here. So you could see that we have a bunch of cool different names: pin, toasty, hot, and warm, and we're just basically adding in X amount of total harmonic distortion. So what I'm going to do here, we'll bypass this on the drum bus, and then I have an instance of it here on my drum level. Now, the reason that I sort of have a couple different ones is what I do is I send my drum samples here to the drum level because I don't want them going through the compression on my drum bus. It's just something that I do, but the point is here we're going to be able to hear the compressor working on all of the drums. And the reason I like doing this and I like using this as an example is because you can really hear compression working on drums, you know, changing the attack time, the release time. What's cool is with this compressor, we get a lot of movement, okay? We always think of compression in terms of controlling dynamics, you know, loudness, and sort of bringing up that noise floor, but it can also add wonderful sustain to things like snare drums, kick drums, toms, so on and so forth. So let's just go ahead and listen to it. I'll dial in some compression. We'll get a little extreme. We'll hear what some different settings sound like, and we'll bypass it in and out. So the way that I have this presently set up is sort of with a slower attack, 24 milliseconds, sort of a medium release, 260 milliseconds, 4:1 ratio, and, you know, doing anywhere from 1 to 5, maybe 6 dB of compression. Everything, I kind of zeroed it out. So the attack modification defaults to 2 right here. The soft clip defaults to 4. Normally the high pass is off, as is the parametric EQ, and then the blend usually defaults to full on compression. Of course, what's cool about this blend knob is we could throw it on here and we could get extreme with our compression and dial this back. Let's check out what this sounds like. Maybe we'll try it on 20:1 or this rivet mode, and we'll use the blend knob to almost, you know, sort of get a little bit of parallel punch in here. Let's try the rivet, which is like the nuke mode on the Distressor, just for fun. See, this is just really fun to me because with this dry level trim, we can blend in quite a bit of the dry signal in conjunction with doing a lot of heavy parallel compression. So this is just gonna, it really is an easy way to work while using parallel compression on very cool things like, I love using it on drums. I love doing this on vocals, bass guitar, all kinds of stuff. So it's very, very cool. Let's just zero this out. Let's go ahead and check out our high pass here. So I'm just going to dial in a pretty normal drum compression setting for me. Okay, now let's pay attention to what the kick is sounding like. I'm just going to move this up and we're going to let a lot more of that kick pass through while kind of going through less compressed. So as you can see on the gain reduction meter, we are really doing a whole lot less compression right now because what was happening is that kick and that low end frequency, you know, from the kick was really exciting the compressor, was sending it into compression a whole lot earlier. And by using the high pass on here, we can really let the kick pass through and kind of still retain its size and sound really, really big, fat, and punchy. So another place that I love to use the Distressor is on bass. I'm a big fan of LA2As on bass, and you know things like I've got a Fairchild 660 on here. Even on the bass bus, I have another optical tube style compressor with the Acme Opticom. But what I want to show you guys is really just how close we can get the Arousor to sound like anything that we really need. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll listen to everything sort of in context. I'm just going to show you the bass. I've got a DI set up. I've duplicated it and sort of set up like a bass amp. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bypass the LA2A here, and then I'm going to put an Arousor in, and I'm going to show you really just how good of a job it does. So this is how much compression we're doing on the bass DI with the LA2A.
Driving so far, enough to get lost. Street lights, exit signs, I'm not worried what I'm leaving behind.
All right, so you know, anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 dB of compression. So I'm just going to bypass this. We're going to put an instance of the Arousor in here. So as this opens, everything is set to default. So I'm going to go to a similar 3:1, which is the default of that LA2A gray in terms of ratio. And I'm going to go ahead and just slow up the attack a little bit because I sort of want a similar type of compression response to what the LA2A is doing here. Okay, let's see if we can get close.
Driving so far, enough to get lost. Street lights, exit signs. I'm not worried what I'm leaving behind. Past and the future might collide, and I just wanna be with you. I wanna.
I mean, it just sounds so close to me, and it's pretty crazy because, like I said, I mean, it's not like this has, you know, multiple different circuits that it's modeling. I mean, it's really just, it's truly a wonderfully well-rounded sounding compressor. Okay, the other place that we can check this out is, I'm just going to bypass this again. We'll put the LA2A back on. Let's listen to it on the bass bus now. So, like I said, I was just doing a little bit of bus compression with this guy. So again, if we wanted to use the arouser to sort of perform a similar task. All right, so let's just zero this out, make sure everything's good, and let's dial this in. I'm gonna go with like a 2:1 ratio here, and we'll slow up the attack a little bit, and we'll go with something like this.
Lights, exit signs. I'm not worried what I'm leaving behind. Past and the future might collide, and I just wanna be with you. I wanna be with you.
Again, I think it sounds very natural, and what's really cool is we can use this soft clipping feature here to sort of get a little bit of sort of like tube overdrive. I mean, I know it's kind of soft clipping the waveform, but it really sounds extremely close, and it's you know, I'm a big fan of it. So we'll bypass this. We'll turn the Acme back on. Let's check what this sounds. Check out, excuse me, what this sounds like on some acoustic guitars. Now I have this just set up on the main acoustics in the track. Now for me, acoustics is like something that can be a little bit delicate to compress. You can get into trouble, and you can really squish acoustics and make them sound unnatural. But I have no problem using the Arouser to compress my acoustics. Again, I'll zero this out. We'll go from a chorus.
Green eyes, soft smile. I could stay here so long. Wake up, hear your voice on the phone. It makes me happy. Well, I'm.
So for me, when I'm compressing acoustics like this, I just really want to kiss the compressor a little bit, and we can really see how much gain reduction we're doing just because of really how accurate the gain reduction meter is. This is one of the most accurate gain reduction meters I have ever pretty much used on a plugin. All right, so last but not least, let's check out what this sounds like if we put it on the mixbus. Now, usually what I use on my mixbus to compress with will vary from song to song depending on what the program material calls for. So sometimes I'm a fan of the SSL G-Bus compressor, which of course I'm using here. I already had in the session from when it was mixed. Sometimes I'm a fan of things like the API 2500, but what really blew me away about the Arouser and this is no BS, guys, is that really how good it sounds on the mix bus. I mean, it's for me, it's kind of like a chameleon because it can just do so many different things well, and I've never really experienced that in, you know, any other compressor. You know, for me, it's like 1176s, love them on drums, love them on vocals, sometimes love them on bass. LA2As, love them on vocals, love them on bass. You know, certain things for me kind of have certain purposes when I'm compressing, or certain things that I reach for when I compress. But with this Arouser, I mean, it's you know, they've made it very easy to dial in whatever type of compression you need, and to also make it sound good. You know, zero artifacts. I mean, it really sounds analog to me. So on the SSL here, I am doing 30 millisecond attack, 100 millisecond release, 2-to-1 ratio. So let's see what it sounds like and how much compression we're doing.
Past and the future might collide, and I just wanna be with you. I wanna be with you tonight. And the past and the future might collide, and I just wanna be with you. I wanna be with you.
Let's go to the harmonica solo. Okay, so, you know, one thing I like about the SSL is it's a bit transparent and it's a little bit snappy, so I dig it. Now, what we're going to do here on the Arouser is we're going to mirror everything exactly. So I'm going to go 2-to-1 ratio. All right, we're going to go with the attack. What I like about this is I'm not a huge fan of 10 milliseconds on my attack time. To me, that can be a little bit quick. 30 can be a little bit slow, so 20 would be perfect. I'll show you what 20 sounds like, but first let's just go 30. For a release, same thing, 100. And let's try and get this close. I was doing about 0 to 2, maybe 3 on peaks of compression.
Late night, smoke-filled room, missing the smell of your perfume, and it takes me back where I wanna be. The past and the future might collide, and I just wanna be with you. I wanna be with you.
I mean, it really blows me away at just how transparent this can be on the mix bus. I mean, you know, the Arouser or the Distressor, whatever you want to call it, it has such a distinct sound when you're heavily compressing things like drums or using it in parallel on some vocals or something like that. But here with this very low ratio and these exact settings to the SSL, I mean, it's pretty much doing the exact same job for me. And what's great is, you know, I mean, we have all of these modern plugin features that we don't find, you know, necessarily on the hardware Distressor. So we can add some more harmonic saturation if we want. You know, we can tweak the attack modification. I mean, we can really push it hard. It's so cool. Again, like I said, I like to usually go with something like a 20 millisecond attack on the mix bus because it sits right in between the 10 and the 30 for me. I'm just going to push it a little bit hard so you can start to hear the compression right now.
Late night, smoke-filled room, missing the smell of your perfume, and it takes me back where I wanna be.
I mean, guys, there's nothing you can't do with this, all right? As I was going there, I was tweaking with the high pass, letting some of the kick and letting some of the bass through. I feel like it really just kind of got a lot bigger. You know, we got a lot more fatness and punch out of that. And then when I was bypassing this in and out, I mean, it's subtly transparent, you know, yet it's there, and you know, we can hear it. I mean, even doing sort of a similar amount of compression here to the SSL, it's very, very similar. And like I said, to me, it's like a chameleon. It can take on so many different shapes and forms just, you know, by using all of these tools, you know, your ratio, your attack, your release times, you know, your fixed threshold, your high pass. And then of course the detector sidechain is just so cool. So guys, this is one heck of a compressor. All right, so that is it from me. Again, my name is Pete from mixbetternow.com and learningtomix.com. I just want to give a shout out to my friends over at Empirical Labs. Guys, please go check them out over at empiricallabs.com. Now, I know that this plugin is a little bit on the pricey side, but, you know, look, they do have sales. They do a 14-day fully functioning demo of it. And I have to say that for the price point, even at $350, it's worth every penny of it because, you know, if you went out and you bought a Distressor for what, I don't know, $1,700, you know, you're using that on one channel, and here you have multiple instances of zero latency in a plugin format. It truly is a wonderful thing. So at the very least, go check out the demo. I really think you guys are going to love it. As always, I just want to say thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. I hope you all have an awesome day, and I will catch you next time.